Hi, I'm Charles Curtis Tucker.
And I am MaggiLu Tucker.
This video is specifically about the annual evaluation portfolio review. So what do I need to send you to do the annual evaluation? All any evaluator is required to do is to look at enough work to determine has this student progressed over the past 12 months.
According to their own ability.
Right, and it's a 12-month thing. It's the letter of intent sets the date of the beginning of your year. Whenever you registered them with the county was the letter of intent, whether it's in February or June, whenever it was, 12 months, they need an evaluation. Grade level, going on to the next grade level, doesn't matter. It's just a 12-month annual evaluation.
Yes, and the evaluation is only based on seeing the student's progress. It's not whether they completed a curriculum, whether they completed a subject, whether they are moving on to another grade. All of that has nothing to do with the portfolio evaluation.
Right. So we did another video already that's on about portfolios. It's a little bit lengthy, but you know, making a portfolio, you have all kinds of options and freedom. Once again, it's the parent's choice. Nothing is specifically required for making a portfolio. So with students that do online schools of all kinds, including Florida Virtual School,
Time for Learning, Monarch, Khan Academy,
there's a lot of them.
Study Ladder, IXL,
or just workbooks and textbooks. And just on that really quickly, what I recommend is using a curriculum of some kind for a foundation to follow, but always bring in everything you can to keep the child interested and bring their interests into the studies. Just sticking to one curriculum a lot of times gets boring really fast, and confining sometimes. So doing research with books from the library, or doing even if you're doing an online curriculum is always good to do projects and building projects and all kinds of things. So with the portfolio, I tell people a lot too, especially with the younger children that are doing all kinds of hands-on things. Take a lot of photographs and a lot of videos. That's documentation in itself, but also it really helps the children to see the photographs throughout the year. I mean, it really encourages them and helps them see their own progress and what they're doing, and they always like seeing pictures of themselves and videos about themselves.
Especially if you are using a non-traditional curriculum, or if you're doing a lot of hands-on or outdoors things, or if you're unschooling, or just eclectic in any way. Photographs of actual progress is good. Videos of your child reading, when they're learning to read, from the beginning to the end, it should be very obvious that they've made progress.
So look at our other videos on a few of those things on portfolio, and I'm also doing some videos on a little help video on reading and math at the early ages especially. As far as the portfolio review goes and the progress, all we have to see from textbooks and workbooks are samples of work from the main core subjects, which are totally your choice, but just samples of work from 10 months ago, 12 months ago when their year began, samples of math, practice, and chapter tests or whatever they're doing, writing, history, geography, science, whatever they're doing, just some samples of that work from months ago, and then samples of work from more recently. I don't have to see the whole year of work. I don't have to see the whole portfolio, so to speak. And from the older samples to the newer samples that you send, which you can see the progress, send samples that show progress, and we can fill out the paperwork that the county needs, and that's it.
Can I just add a couple of things? So if you're asking yourself, well, how do I know what progress looks like? here are a couple of clues. For example, sometimes progress is builds upon itself. Like for example, in a subject like math or in a subject like writing, language arts. The topics in math build upon themselves, the concepts do. So if your child started out doing addition, single digit addition, and at the end of the year they're doing triple digit addition, triple digit subtraction, obviously there's some progress there. So you'd want to choose samples that show that transition from one concept to another. That would be progress. Another thing that would show progress is if they're more advanced, or if they're an older student, you could send quizzes, you can send tests, things like that to show that they've made progress in what they've been studying. That's why we give tests, to show that you've learned the material. So that would be also another indication of progress.
Which reminds me of one misconcept that parents have. It doesn't have to be graded. You don't have to run out and grade a bunch of stuff and send the graded stuff to me either.
Although that makes it easier.
Well,
he's right. It doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to be graded. It makes it easier for you and easier for your children. I know how difficult it is to sit down and grade things, even just with your own 1 or 2 or however many children you have. It's difficult to sit down and go through and grade it all. But it doesn't have to be graded to see progress.
Exactly.
The evaluator is required to determine if the student has progressed. So when I look at things from months ago, and then more recently this past month or this past week, it's more than obvious most of the time that there's progress being made, and then the student is allowed to continue to home educate. Now with online programs, it's really simple. Most parents just send us the login information, username and password, and I can look at transcripts of the courses they're taking and the grades they're making, and that's usually enough evidence to see and testify that these students are progressing.
Yes.
So it's really very simple. Don't stress over it.
One more thing. Exactly. It's not supposed to be stressful in any way, and that's really one of the reasons that we do this, is because we don't want parents to stress out over something that does not need to be stressful. But one last thing about that is that when you send your samples to the evaluator and the evaluator reviews the samples, the evaluator is not supposed to compare your child to anyone else. They're not supposed to say, well, your child's 8 years old and they should be doing 3rd grade work. That evaluator doesn't know homeschooling.
Right, and yeah, if any evaluator starts telling you what subjects to do, anything that you should do, I recommend finding another evaluator, because they are not to tell you anything to do. You can ask their opinion.
And they can make suggestions, but they shouldn't be telling you what you should do. Many
times, most evaluators seem to think that the public school requirements are what either we have as home education programs or what we should have. And so they kind of enforce that if they can.
But it's not true.
And so
we're not required to follow any standards from the Florida State public education system. And we can adhere to whatever standards we set for ourselves and our children. And an evaluator is just supposed to look at the work that we provide for them and determine whether or not it actually shows the child's progress. That's pretty much it.
Yes. So if an evaluator is telling you anything about curriculum or subject or grade level or failing because of this, that, and the other, kindly say, well, thank you very much. I recommend second opinion, definitely.
Well, thank you for watching our video, and please check out our other videos. We're trying to just explain it in just real clear terms so that, like we said, take the stress out of it, so that you can do what's most important, which is educate your child.
Any questions, we will do our best to pay attention to the comments in this video.
Yes.
And of course, there's a couple of websites that we're on, and you can get in touch with us in many ways. So
yes, and the links to those will be also in the comments, but homeschool-evaluations.com and homeschoolingflorida.com is where you can find us.
As well as on Facebook.
What's Facebook? What? Facebook? What's that?